This is KOOP HD1 HD3 Hornsby, radio for people, not for profit. Welcome to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Each week, we explore how your library is more than books. The library is knowledge, technology, and inspiration for our community.
This is Valerie Romness, Director-Editor of challengerNewspaper.org. Thanks for listening. We're happy to be back, bringing you the writings of the Challenger Street newspaper.
The opinions expressed in the following stories reflect the authors and are not the opinions of Co-op Radio or the Austin Public Library. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Rana Ghana. I'm going to read an article from the Challenger Street newspaper from this month, May 2018. That is a cover article titled New Resource Center Needed for Central Austin by the Lone Spanger. That's me. Austin, Texas has yet to create a resource center, or drop-in as they are called, for the homeless in the central downtown district where it is needed the most. That is just a drop-in. A new drop-in is needed desperately and will definitely help relieve a lot of poverty-related problems our city faces. The Arch is not convenient because it is also a shelter and so meets the needs of its own residents first. The Trinity Center, the other resource center in the Central District, is a part of St. David's Church and therefore has to segregate its resources to meet the guidelines of its Christian-based sponsors. Actually building a structure that is only a drop-in center has not been done here in Austin, and I think that if it was built, it would immediately have positive effects on the entire homeless community and increase a sense of goodwill towards city officials by those same people. A new homeless resource center would not be complicated in designing. Some resources offered could include a mailroom, computer learning center, reading center with community library, lunchroom with only daytime meals being served, a coffee lounge, triage clinic, employee break room with its own employee bathroom, client storage lockers, community resource bulletin board, parking, covered from the rain outdoor lineup area for clients to wait until the center opens, an art area with basic donated art supplies, and a fenced-in outdoor area for anyone taking a smoke break. I hope to see this happen soon since I know it will help immensely. I'm going to read another article. This one is from December 2016 that I wrote on Election Day, and it is titled Election Day. My pen hits the paper in this most cathartic of literary refuges, a worn-in booth at a diner. The new president will be chosen today, so says the television behind the bar lined with breakfast patrons. I refuse to watch. As a writer, it is all too depressing. What would I write about? The elaborate dance of bullying and fanatical travel the two candidates have carried out to get this far is exhausting to even think about. I happen to experience all this in not just a diner, but Sang's Cafe in Salinas, California. John Steinbeck used to drink frequently in a room towards the back, which is now commemorated with an artistically presumptive doorway. Salinas is known as Steinbeck country, which I didn't know until after a month of being here. I guess the Steinbeck statue in front of the Steinbeck Library or the Steinbeck mural next to the Steinbeck Museum didn't really make the connection in my head with the nurturing writer's haven. It does really seem as though there is an unspoken acceptance of giving writers free run of the city to pursue their art to a deeper level. After all, Grapes of Wrath and Of Mice and Men were written in this very place. I'm trying not to get a big head about my luck to be sitting in this very cafe on Election Day with the privilege of seeing my writing manifest at such an idyllic setting for the point in time. I ate steak and eggs. The coffee is still being refilled by the doting waitress. She has undoubtedly seen this before, and I could tell from my folio full of notebooks, pens, and my look of introspection that the waitress knew I was a writer, and it was her mission to get some writing out of her legendary cafe on this historic day. She tells me to take my time. I'm always good at that.
My name is Christopher, and this one I'm a writer-distributor for The Challenger, and I'm going to be reading two of my selections and poetry from the last two issues, the current issue, which is our May issue, and the last issue, which was our March issue. One of the poems from the last issue, the March issue, is titled After the Dream of the Final Theory. And the Dream of the Final Theory is a collection of poetry by the American poet Jory Graham. And I wrote this because I also study physics, and I happen to believe that poets would figure out a grand unified theory before a physicist would. So that's kind of what this poem is about. So this is called After the Dream of the Final Theory. And this is a verse journal, so it's kind of slapdash, kind of not very metered. It still has kind of a speechifying meter to it, but that's what it is. It's just I write my journal in verse, so if anybody gets a sense of that, that's why it's like that. So this is After the Dream of the Final Theory. Since it is everything, categorically, Jory, I have the physics over a barrel. Not many of us can count them on one hand. Can they explain the significance of 5 in the world of hands, paws, flowers? You who traffic in everything, the undersize of pinheads. There is no everything anywhere else. But everything physics declaiming, in perfection, mathematical embouchure. Everything mathematical represented by the barred E. The singularity of the 4th generation of wave functions. I'm talking about the flowers, Doctor, and not something you imagine out there, or in here, or wherever you forget Einstein, where it's quantitatively convenient, godless, and hubristic like the number 12. I do have physics in a corner, symmetry breaking non-abelian gauges, manifold algebras undetectable under a magnetic arc of forgotten momentum, the poem, or poems, or poema, what business verse in physics? Nothing mathematical about music, Doctor, or flowers, hands. We are more of everything than they are, Jory. In fact, some everythings are anathema to science, hence everything in a space the size of what, or what? Do you suspect their accredited jargon reassigning beauty and nature to impossible math? What they study at the CERN, the LIGO, etc., exists nowhere else. Not matter, but a smashing lack of equilibrium ascription. This is my verse journal, Jory. What love under the self-organizing system. I speak to the center for nonlinear dynamics. I speak to the various corpses of Lessing. And what aggregation of quark leads me to the canopus, a new summary contest. Does it follow from cross dimensions for which they have no name, from the smallest thing to the largest? Pity this monster is even busier than we imagine. Do you know at some scales there is no differentiate one thing from another? And still they do not wash the hubris from this degree tangent, the size of Warcraft and Neptune. No relativity of microenvironments we are somewhere. Are you somewhere in English? I am. The Lambeth crotchet came out today about these hateful, violent people of Christ. And Lambeth, after 8 centuries of Swede Geatland, what hateful violence of that Matthew 25 prophecy. But they didn't do it alone, Lambeth. They had the State Department help them. Bring the world to heel under Western kindness, or at least Western ideologies of kindness, the English of well-meaning. More progress, Jory, in my self-organizing system, the same way platelets swim toward a hole in your skin, or the way women move toward men who are wrong for them, the way a flower moves toward the florist. The matter science they have no consider. The 3 aggregate emissions of your holy breath all together at once and in real time, they study signals processing in their corner, with their tokamaks and their virial theorems behind them. I give too much credence to Coleridge, however, that I could not write in this sturm of recollect, but I can, and without obeisance to the peace and gestation of self-organizing music. Isn't all music self-organizing? Save the hubris of Hollywood art. I mentioned Sacrete as art, the comedy of the masculine ennui against the real estate of separateness. His narrator can only speculate about the residents. Who is doing this? Who is organizing the not knowing? The satire of housed, well-heeled preoccupations, the same way Phoebe and Mark converse over the net at the club, and how Tuesdays are good, but however not reliable. Who organized Donald Hall? Was it Zephaniah or some other prophet? prophet of nothingness. Sorry, Jory and Coleridge, I was distracted by the Andres Serena of my miraculous being. And this poem is, again, when I first started writing again, I hadn't written in like 7 years, and I had a hard time maintaining a library from living outside and getting my books rained on and whatnot. So I sort of recreated what I had read from 20 years ago by writing poetry. And I started doing this again. And so these poems, this poem is about, in that regard, this poem is about Anne Sexton, the mid-century confessional poet, whom I regard as one of the great poets of the 20th century. And so this is just titled with her name. Do you know our paralysis view, just you and only you? I used to be afraid, but now entertain, dehumanize. Who is beautiful? Face-stamped descent of all ages of desire. In our time, electronic reproduce faith. And our time without any other, Mao. I study ephemera and how they became this culture, lionized, idolized, everywhere ephemera. The disaggregate and unitary opera called self-indulgence. Turn on the radio if you have one. When I look at you, I think about metaphysics of antecedents. When you are young, beautiful, it must be a tiresome chore to resemble scads of tiny economic faces, maybe smaller and smaller. Out there, someone's face doesn't resemble the commerce of toothpaste in America, say. They feel ugly, inhuman perhaps. But you, dehumanized by the words love, beauty, woman, dehumanized, getting, spending. In America, beauty is shitless and real. In America, beauty increasingly madness. Perched in Baudelaire's skeleton's lap, she is lively, reddened, and dusky, who outlived your scaffold of symbols. But you, love, surrounded by disingenue, by the silent covets of your glistened face, silenter covets of your body for sale. Does it bother you, the commodities exchange? No futures in beauty, love. And to think they just wanted to say how beautiful you were, like rain-swept television.
My name is Blair Parsons, and I'm a librarian at the Central Library. Each week I highlight a selection of programs for adults that are happening around the Austin Public Library, and our full list of programs may be found on the library's events calendar. Tonight, Wednesday, May 16th, the Central Library hosts author Jeff Dyer and filmmaker Sasha Waters-Freyer for a discussion of the work of Gary Winogrand, one of the most important photographers of the 20th century. Jeff Dyer will share excerpts from his recently published book, The Street Philosophy of Gary Winogrand, and Sasha Waters-Freyer will present film clips from her award-winning documentary, Gary Winogrand, All Things Are Photographable. The program begins at 7 o'clock tonight, Wednesday, May 16th, in the Central Library Special Events Center. Saturday, May 19th, the Menchaca Road Branch Library will host a small business legal seminar focused on liability and how to manage it, the first of a 4-part series specifically designed for the small business owner or anyone thinking of starting a small business. The seminar will introduce the legal concept of liability and the various ways to manage it through entity selection, taxes, insurance, and contracts. The seminar is from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, Saturday, May 19th at the Menchaca Road Branch Library.
Hey there, Austin. This is Xander here to tell you about this week's events at the Austin Public Libraries. Don't let the muggles get you down. Teen witches and wizards can find each other in the 3rd floor corridor, a Harry Potter club just for teens ages 13 to 18 at the Central Library. Catch up on the latest news from the wizarding world and enjoy magical activities including games, crafts, and trivia. The 3rd floor corridor Harry Potter Club meets this Sunday, May 20th from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the Central Library's teen area. This program is open to teens ages 13 to 18. More details on Harry Potter Club and additional programs can be found at library.austintexas.gov/events.
This is Monica Lozano, Youth Services Librarian at the Ruiz Branch. I get to highlight some of our children's programming this week. Crafternoon. Drop by the library and make a craft while you search for books, movies, and music. We've got paper crafts, easy sewing, and more fun projects for the whole family. We provide the supplies, you provide the creativity. Monday, May 21st at 3 p.m. at the Dove Springs Recreational Center. Counting coins. Start financial literacy with your child early. This session will teach children ages 3+, How to Recognize and Count Money. This program is presented in partnership with the Financial Literacy Coalition of Central Texas. Tuesday, May 22nd at 10:15 at the Carver branch. For more information, please go to library.austintexas.gov.
You're listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show on Co-op 91.7 FM and KOOP.org. Radio for people, not for profit.
Support comes from East Side Pies, local pizza with local ingredients. 3 locations around Austin: East Side off Rosewood, Airport and 53rd, and Anderson Lane. Take out or eat in. Online ordering now available at eastsidepies.com.
If you have a member of the family who isn't driving anymore, have them donate their vehicle to Co-op. We'll arrange for free pickup, even if they don't live in Austin. We can arrange for pickup anywhere in the country. Just call 877-750-5667. Our staff will make all the arrangements. Call 877-750-KOOP now, or donate securely online at koop.org.
Welcome back. This is Valerie Romness, Director-Editor of ChallengerNewspaper.org. Thank you for listening.
The opinions expressed in the following stories reflect the authors and are not the opinions of Co-op Radio or the Austin Public Library. Thank you for listening.
Okay, my name is John Curran, and my story is called Scratch and Sniff. Yeah, so old buddy shows up, see, and he's got some. So, back we go into the bedroom of my government-sponsored housing unit for slicing and dicing. Man, buddy's feeling good, I guess. I get a big slice. Big. Reminds me of back in the day, the church picnic, and I'd get the biggest piece of watermelon of anybody. Kind of like that, though not exactly. So I says, well, thanks, old buddy. And I just had to look at it for a minute. Man, I knew this was good stuff. I could just tell. The way it just glistened with a kind of diamond luster, as if to say, yes, sir, buddy. If you dare, I'm going to blow your head off. You take all of me. Especially excitable boys, like I know I tend to be. Yes, as if it was speaking to me, that little tiny thing, that yet looms so large sometimes. So large, yeah, you might know what I mean. So I says, oh, buddy, man, I'm feeling that tingle already. I want to go, but I know I'm going to have some kind of cool down afterwards, because let's face it, I know myself only too well as this little mojo sitting right here now on my table, lustrous and glistening. And I say, oh, buddy, I got to get a beer first. Old buddy was already getting down and comfy with his, and hopefully wouldn't get too wild on me while I took 5 minutes to go up to the neighborhood corner store, which everybody called Hillbilly Heaven, though it was really just an Exxon. So I'll go up there, Hillbilly Heaven, for a beer, for an afterburner, I guess you could say. And doggone it, as I'm walking, it does occur to me that I had not put that hellacious little hit I'd been slipped back there on the slice and dice. I had not put it up. It was just still laying there on the table in the bedroom in full view, and old buddy, no doubt, probably knew this too. Now, me and old buddy, we're pretty cool, but actually not that cool. Not cool enough to where I can totally not worry about my little darling once the effects of things begin to intercede, as you know they will do. In other words, how good a buddy was old buddy, huh? And it's like I'm almost to the store now anyway, and so thinking, well, just make this quick. So I step up smartly, fling open the glass door and go on in, straight back to beer cooler, fast. Coming up the counter, I see it's Vern working it, and there's 2 up in front of me, both hillbillies. Now I have to say, at this point, I still don't understand the attraction for these hillbillies of scratch-off. I know practically everybody goes for this now, except me. I got my demons, but it ain't this. But damn, if these hillbillies don't really get nuts over them little cards. I mean, they're in there night and day. And this one up here now, well, yep, I knew it. That's what it was. The old scratch and sniff was a-burning. And he seemed to be having a tough time making up his mind. Well, Vern, he's saying to Vern, who, believe me, has to have seen it all, I just don't know if I'm feeling lucky today with 23. I'm feeling more like 17 or 18. That's the day Mama died, one of those days. On the other hand, Daddy died on 14, and damned if I didn't win that $50 last week on that. What you think, Vern, huh? Vern would not commit. Making it tough for me there, are you, Vern? He says and turns, a chuckling kinda, to the other hillbilly right behind, who was chuckling too now, and I damn well knew, too, was wanting to get in on that action as well. Jesus, I'm thinking I'm going to be here forever, and couldn't help now visualizing my little darling, back there just lying out in the big wide open, totally exposed, subject to the ravenous depredations of the first wild beast who would want to slip right on in there and, well, you know. And didn't I know that wild beast could very well be old Buddy if I didn't get back fast. And so, putting down that doggone beer, hillbillies, damn hillbillies, and I'm panicking, understand, but moving in a most timely and purposeful fashion, I did get the hell on back there, busted open that door, and yes, there it was still, little darling, just where I left it, with old Buddy over in the corner, head on his chest. So it was all good. Except when I went up to it now and had my little apparatus all ready, yes, I could see that all was the same as before. It had not been moved nor tampered with in no way. Yet somehow something was different. And as I looked again, it became apparent, so apparent, that it just wasn't as lustrous as it had been before. Yes, that's it. Not as lustrous. And it just wasn't the same in that small way, which is really a big way. And it ain't, in fact, been the same as it was ever since.
DACA by Marcellus. I was reading the news on my cell phone when I happened to run across a story. It involved the Attorney General Jeff Sessions and how he was doing something to tweak the court in order to faster deport the DACA children. Jeff Sessions is a known bigot. So I read part of what he had to say. Being a black man born in the South and a victim of racist individuals like bigot Jeff Sessions, I was interested. The story mentions something about immigration court victims not being eligible for protection afforded by the Constitution. This comes as no surprise. Bigots like Jeff Sessions are always using the law in order to further their own selfish, bigoted, racist gains. Never mind the fact that these actions are actually against the law. The same things are done with regard to LGBT rights, civil and human rights. Let there be no mistaking. Those who think they are immune suffer the same consequence. We as civilians to the law have always gone along thinking that there is nothing that we can do and that they, the court and law enforcement, are going to do whatever they want anyway. Who are we to question the word of the law? We without question place our lives and our resources in their hands. This posture is so far from the truth. We have the greatest ally known to man at our disposal, the provisions of the oath used to give testimony. The DACA children, as well as we, have at our beck and call the use of, legally, the most formidable three-letter word in the English vocabulary. We need only to take advantage of it. Too bad their attorneys and ours who are charged with our legal defense refuse to acknowledge its existence or consider using it. It is the word and. The exact same three-letter word used in the oath used to give testimony in the courtroom. Your attorney will tell you there is no such thing. They will be losing money and stature if we discover it. The word and is free. There is no charge for its usage. You need only to know how to use it. You need only to understand it. You need only to question. We have no use for any constitutional rights. Constitutional rights can be debated. The provisions of the word and are not subject to question or debate. The court is supposed to be aware of this as fact, as well as your attorney. The court and law enforcement are obligated to abide by an oath that they themselves administer. The court and law enforcement should be held accountable for any and all judgments that are based on ignorance of the law, ignorance of the oath. The longer we as citizens allow the court and law enforcement to take advantage of us, we will continue to be self-oppressed. The longer we allow prejudice and racism to govern our courts, the further we sink into fascism. What happened in Germany can easily happen here as well. If we are truly a nation of laws, then we should be a nation of the law. the law according to the true meaning and interpretation of the words truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Truth, spoken word, anything you say. Whole truth, makes truth physically possible. Nothing but the truth. Understood or documented as proven fact that whole truth can physically exist. And determines the unquestioned arrival at due process. Due process allows for the arrival at justice. The arrival at justice is the sole objective of the court. DACA, LGBT rights activists, human and civil rights activists have the same exact common foe. Not our criminal justice system, but rather those who exploit a just system in the name of their own self-gains. Those charged with upholding the system, using it in an improper manner. The system is adequate as it is. It only needs to be applied as intended by the law. It is not intended to polarize as it currently is by our legal and law enforcement community. It is intended only to be just. Equal protection for all, regardless of color or any other stigma. Expecting justice from our justice system is not too much to ask from it. We should not have to ask. We have a Supreme Court, a U.S. Attorney General, a state governor, a district attorney who share being graduates of an accredited law school in common. We have a Supreme Court, a U.S. Attorney General, a state governor, a district attorney, a sheriff's department, a police department, and a fraternal order of police union who share in common with John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, and Charles Manson many of the same attributes. They and their supporters are all, according to the oath used to give testimony, accomplices to being serial killers. The difference is our justice system accomplishes using the law. This is said with remorse. It is said with no fear of reprisal. It is said in hopes of investigation. It is said because it should not be capable of being said, but it is. It is said because it is easily proven. It should not be. The oath used to give testimony is equally applied in an unjust manner. Its findings are the product of prejudice and bias. This is a travesty to justice. The oath used to give testimony is knowingly, willfully, and intentionally being used to make legitimate, known, fictitious documentation to be used as evidence that it firmly disqualifies. This has created a toxic environment where the presumed and known innocent are considered guilty before the words I do are spoken in the courtroom. No one is safe from bigotry, prejudice, or racism. The bigoted ideas of bigoted individuals are free to make havoc in the halls of our justice system, and we all refuse or prevent it through intimidation from taking action.
Hi, my name is Pirate Joe. I'm one of the writers for the Challenger Street newspaper. I'm going to read a poem that was written in tandem at the Art Wall at Baylor Street in Austin, Texas. The Art Wall is the remains of an apartment complex, about 4 stories, that was condemned and is now a graffiti park. Here's what we came up with. Eating only music, we break the back of debt, feeling it tremble in jealous fury on the land where the complex once stood, as the graffiti screamed in tongues of the oncoming menu nothing can outrun. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show. Special thanks to our producer, DJ Harris, and to the musicians who composed and performed our original theme song, Andrew Noble on violin, Kirk Duvall on guitar, and Mike Wheat on percussion. And thanks to you, our listeners. Volumes, the Austin Public Library radio show, airs Wednesday afternoons at 2:30 on Co-op 91.7 FM and koop.org. If you catch us mid-show, full episodes and other details can be found at library.austintexas.gov/volumes.